Noella Risley, welcome to Impossible Dreams.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. I've only gotten to know you recently, but I just think you're a very special human, and I'm excited to have you here and just learn so much from you and share with our audience, sort of demystify some of the mystical, but also mystify people and get them excited and inspired. But what you're talking about right now is the nature of healing events, where there are energy healers. It's kind of how we met because I had gone to an event where I met Rob Wergan, Sarah's dad, and then through Sarah and Rob met you. Mm-hmm. You were talking about how you are kind of avoiding events like that because you're such an empath and it's just hard to be around people who need energy and need healing and are energy and just being amongst that energy is a real specific thing. That's a lot for you.
Okay. Well, first, hi, Aaron. Thank you for inviting me. This is awesome. And yeah, we met through Rob Wergan, and I love his work. I'm actually a huge fan, as you know, and he mentored me for a while, and it was through him that I learned more about my own gifts. So for me, my experience with that kind of work has deepened my own spirituality and my own self-acceptance, self-concept, and my own comprehension of my own gifts. So that's how I perceive it. Now, like you said, I've been to some of the events, whether it's his or other people's. And when it's a physical healing event, like you said, I am an empath. And I don't like to use that word as much as some other people do because it kind of, number one, the connotation is that you take on others' emotions when you're an empath. And so to me, I prefer identifying with compassion rather than empathy, because empathy, you kind of identify with that, and that's what happens when I'm in those events. Is I'm identifying with it, so I feel like I'm taking on, without wanting to or even intending to, other people's suffering. Mm. And so for me, after I'd gone maybe 5-10 times, I'd gone in person, I think 4 times to Rob's events, for example. But online, I used to do them every single time he had one for a few years.
I've done a few, yeah.
Yeah, and I noticed that for me, it was very hard to come back from them. It took me like a couple of months each time to sort of to integrate everything and to come back. And after a while, I realized it's not for me because I'm not going through the same ordeal. And because I can see what's happening a lot of times, I'm just by being there, I'm feeling a lot of it. Whether or not I have the protective things that I do to sort of assist me. So after a while, I just realized for me it's not the way for me. However, the teachings and the sensibilities and a lot of just the spiritual aspects of what specifically Rob taught and teaches were extremely helpful for me in identifying my beliefs. Especially because, probably like you and most of this country, I came from a Christian upbringing. There's things I believed in, and there were things I didn't. And when I stopped being in the whole Christian realm, I discarded all of it because I just didn't like the religion of it. So to me, I had to re-identify what was what. And what Rob teaches is divine light and angelic healing and ascended masters. And those were things I always resonated with, but it just felt so like I wanted to believe in them. Like maybe I just want to, kind of like fairies or anything. I want to believe in that. But now I do. From working with him, from experiencing some of this stuff myself, it definitely elevated my capacity to do what I do.
It's beautiful. I want to jump in on a couple of points that you made, but first, what would you call what you do?
It's such a
I know what I've called it, but I feel like I want to hear from you.
I mean, I call it a psychic channel or a spiritual advisor, or usually when I'm just talking about it, I just call myself a reader.
A reader.
Right? So I'm just reading where you're at. I just think it's less confabulated, I'm just reading you like a lot of people do, right? And I've learned that I think I used to minimize that a lot because I kind of wanted to make it a scientific thing more, or just more reasonable. So for a long time, I sort of shrunk that title, and I wouldn't even call myself anything. It would just be like, oh, I help people, or I was a little bit embarrassed of it. So it took a while for me to go like, well, this is what you do. And people keep coming back. And it is making a difference. And you don't really have a rational explanation as to why it comes true, or why you can see what they're going through. You don't have a real explanation, so why can't you just accept that maybe it's a gift?
I love that. And I think, what one of the things I love at least attempting to do on this show, Robbie, is bridge the gap between science and spirituality, or another way of putting it is bridge the gap between, what we're raised to believe is possible and what actually we discover might be possible, and then we're kind of embarrassed about it because it's not necessarily what we were taught is possible.
Yeah.
I love what you said about compassion versus empathy, because I didn't realize I was as sensitive of a guy as I am, and really was kind of almost embarrassed of that, because I was like, no, I'm a tough guy. I'm a guy. I'm an alpha. I'm a dude. I don't know. I'm not sensitive. But I would constantly I can look back and go, I didn't really want to be at big parties, and I didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. And I had a hard time not emotionally taking things on and experiences in life from whether it was a traumatic experience with a homeless person or somebody going through a trauma in their life. I would constantly take these things on as if they were mine, and it would just become a part of my energy, and I didn't even know that was happening. And, the more you learn about yourself, the more you kind of understand the different layers of what's possible. Let's go back for a second, because as a reader, you must deal with skepticism all the time until there's belief, right? It must be like, well, I don't know. And then you do a reading, and then people are like, whoa. What is that experience like for you? That, like, it would be tough, like, as an actor, if everybody coming to the Broadway show was like, yeah, let's see what this guy can do. I don't know if he's any good. Let's see if he can sing. Prove it. Yeah. But you have an amount of you have to sort of wade through some skepticism.
Yeah, I don't mind it, because I am skeptical. Like, I'm still skeptical. So to me, it's normal.
What do you mean by that?
Like, I'm skeptical of other people that read, and I'm skeptical of myself sometimes. Like, sometimes I'm like, wait, that didn't just happen. Like, even like Sarah has to ask Sarah. She has to call me and say, like, Noella, that happened. It happened exactly like this on this date. I'm like, no way, I said that. Like, I don't remember I said stuff, number one. And then number two, it's still, like, astounding to me, which is awesome. Like, I love that it can still surprise me. I know how skeptical I was in the beginning. It took me those 12 years to go, like, actually, this is not just me being intuitive. Like,
so
this is beyond.
Let's go back. How did this gift for you? When did you first discover it, and what was going on in your life, and how did you come to feel that it was something you wanted to develop?
It's kind of a funny story, just because I wasn't trying to do it. Essentially, I liked a guy. He didn't like me as much back. And so I went home to cry to my dad for a summer after college. And during that time, I had gone to some readers in LA, or psychics, the psychic sign, neon sign places. And this woman had really, worked her magic on me in the most negative way. Like, in terms of, she really took me for a ride for a few months. And I knew it, but, and I knew it. And I think a lot of people know it, but they just want to hear what they want to hear.
But so this is a cool opportunity to go, what does that mean? As somebody who's not doing that to her clients now, what did that mean as you look at a person like that?
Well, it means that they suck you in by being somewhat accurate in the first reading, right? So they can read. They can read the cards, at least. And to me, the cards are pretty specific. Like, even if you're not psychic, you can probably do a tarot card reading and get pretty definitive answers if you understand the cards. Anyway, so she would read the cards, and the first time she read them, and it was pretty accurate, and she saw the heartbreak, she saw there's this handsome guy, and he doesn't like you as much, but he's really into you, but there's another girl, like all the details.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so I'm impressed. So I'm like, okay, I'll come back.
I'd be impressed. I'd be like, wow, this woman knows what she's
talking about. She knows what
she's
saying, so you come back. And then she says, oh, well, there's a problem though. There's a black cloud above you, and probably in your life you've suffered this, and this. Like, you've had a hard time being understood. You've had a hard time with that. You have a hard time with guys like really trusting you or believing in you. You feel used. So all this stuff, and I can take that away for you. I will burn a candle for you in my church tonight.
That, to me, the red flag there, if that's what you're calling out as a red flag, is like just general kind of behavioral patterns that could be true for anybody but feel applicable to you because you're looking to her for guidance, and so then you're reading into it as opposed to it necessarily being true? Is that what you mean
Well,
by?
she was still on point. It's just that now there was a black cloud. Before that, there wasn't.
So she put it there.
So she added that, oh, there's something wrong. Let me fix it, and then you can have this guy. Well, you're 20-something years old. You're like, okay, well, I'll do it. And so I did the first one because it was only like another $40 on top of the reading. So I'm like, I can do that. The next time it was like, well, it'll be 100 because it didn't work. I needed to do a more powerful one. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that one because I really want the guy. And then the third time I was like, wait a minute. And anyway, it went for a while, and I started to know, but I just needed to keep my dream. And that's what happens is people know, like there's a part of you that's like, that doesn't make sense what she just said, or there's things that she's telling me that aren't quite true, or she was kind of mean last time a little bit, and eventually, without getting into the details, I just one day it just hit me like I'm just being stupid at this point. And so she had asked me, she said to bring her, when you come this time, bring me a loaf of bread and some milk and tea. And I was like, how is that?
$1,000.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And she did say that. She did say that.
Bills.
She goes, let's do that because I need to offer. And I'm like thinking, she's shopping for her grandkids. At that point, I just realized. And I was like, I'm going to go to this. And I just thought, no. And so I said no. And she said, well, if you're not willing to do these little things, then how are you supposed to have the love of your life? And I said, I guess I won't. And she said, well, you're not going to have him anyway. Obviously, he wasn't into you.
Oh.
And I was like, okay. And I knew, and it was true. I mean, it was true, but that was the first true thing she'd said. So it hit me, and I was like, okay, I would never do that to somebody. I'm going to learn how to do my own cards. I don't know why. That was like retaliation, but I was like, I'm just going to learn how to do my own. So I went home and I studied with a lady that was my best friend from high school's mom was a reader. I didn't know until I went home that summer. But she used to use cowrie shells. So she would invite me over to her house. We'd have tea, and she'd be like, oh, let's see what's going to happen with you now. And after a while, I was like, well, how do you do that? And she told me a little bit. And then my older brother, was like, you're really going through a hard time. You should read the I Ching. It gives you answers. So I read the I Ching, and I started understanding how to do the hexagrams. I bought some coins. I started doing that.
I did that, yeah.
Yeah, right? And
Yeah.
it's wise. It's more of like a process. It's not about answers necessarily.
Yeah.
But I was like, I need answers. I want black and white answers. So I was like, when I get back to America, I'm going to buy cards. But it was like a leap because I was still coming from a Christian background. And I was like, I don't know, tarot, like to actually own a deck, is that bad? And then I just thought, I don't care. I'm gonna get him. Well, so I got him, and for like 3 months, I was so obsessed, Aaron. Like all I did was after my work or whatever, I would go home and I'd just do card spreads. I'd stay up all night doing card spreads, because I was still in love with this guy. I was trying to figure out how I'm gonna get this guy.
Wow.
And then eventually, I came to the conclusion, well, why do you want him? At this point, do you want him? And I was like, no, not for all for all this. Like obviously, the answer is he's not that into you. So stop. And then, meanwhile, my friends are coming to me and like, oh, what are you doing? Can I get a reading? And so I'm doing it for them. And eventually, one of my friends said, you should do this. And at the time, Aaron, I was pursuing acting. So I was in a play at the Tamarind Theater down in Hollywood on Franklin. And I needed something, because I was still going out for auditions, that would be flexible. And I didn't want to get a real job. So this sounded really good. So I went to the Psychic Eye bookshop in Sherman Oaks and applied. And
It's a great store.
It's
Yeah,
a
it's a
great
fun store,
store.
yeah.
It's a bookshop too.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can go in there and you can read stuff. And anyway, I went in and they didn't have an opening, but they said they'd take my name. And I just thought, okay, I'll leave it. But by the time they'll come to me, I'll probably have a job in acting, right? And then 3 months later, they called me and they said, are you still available? Because we like something that never happened. So somebody left. Like nobody ever leaves. They have usually 11 psychics on site. And I was like, okay. So they said, can you come today? And I said, yeah. And I got a little interview right then. She said, just do a little reading for me. Do you feel comfortable reading strangers? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And Aaron, believe me, I don't know why I was confident, because I'd read my friends and I'd read me.
Right.
But I really knew I could.
Wow.
So I went in there and I said, give me every opening. Like if anyone cancels and they don't want to come in the day, I'll come in. If it's the weekend, I'll come in. If it's Sunday night, I'll come in. If it's impromptu, I'll come in. So I was there every day for the first year, I think.
Wow.
And I got a huge following from it. And I started really getting a vibe with people, and the clients started asking for me specifically. So and then I started getting people that were in entertainment saying, well, can we get her for a reading for our event or for our rap event or for our after party? And it kind of went on from there.
And here you are.
And here I am.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool opening because it still let me, I got to be on TV too. I got to do stuff too, even though I was a psychic.
You're
and I actually
still
started,
showbiz adjacent.
I was still showbizing it.
Still
Yeah.
showbizing it.
Yeah, and I was still acting. So for a while I was still acting too, and then eventually I was not.
And then you did a reading on yourself and realized that show business will never love you as much as you love it.
Literally
and
not.
that's true for every single one of us.
Literally not. I wasn't like you,
guy.
Aaron. I was like, I don't know why I fell into it other than that I was in LA and I had gotten a couple of very like lucky breaks. And so I just thought, I can do this. And then I started really competing with real actors like yourself. And I started getting stage fright and I started realizing I have to go back and study. And I don't believe in myself that hard about this. Not about this. Like, I'm not in love with it enough to do what you need to do to be successful in this.
This episode of Impossible Dreams is brought to you by our charity champion, the ALS Network. The ALS Network is incredible. For families and patients who are living with this terrible disease, every day brings a new challenge. Trust me, I know. The ALS Network is there every step of the way with compassion, advocacy, and hope. They are helping patients and their loved ones all across the country, from funding groundbreaking research to hands-on support. I know firsthand how vital their work is and how much their support matters. I know that together we will accelerate progress towards better treatments and one day finding a cure. How can you help? Please visit thealsnetwork.org, make a donation, get involved. Your support really does matter. It brings us all one step closer to ending ALS. Thank you so much. Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I kind of, I say it a little, I'm sort of half joking, but half not when I say, show business is the lover who will never love you back as much as you love it. And you kind of do have to love it.
Unconditionally, almost.
Unconditionally.
Literally.
And I almost, from the personal, challenges and trauma, or if you want to call it, in my life, from the career standpoint, is feeling like I'm chasing a romantic partner almost, but it's show business.
Yeah.
And I'm being betrayed by this person, but it's not. It's show business, and not knowing how to not take that personally.
What a great analogy.
Well, you helped me put it together. I kind of got it on a certain level. I talk about Jonathan Hammond, my shaman in Hawaii, sometimes on the show. And he was the one, because he used to be an actor as well. And I think it's interesting because I think actors, creative people, artists are empathetic, feel things, and then don't know how to keep it. You smartly made it about compassion more than empathy. It's not healthy to take on other people's karma and other people's lives. And, just because you're a feeler of, you feel those things deeply, heart and soul, it's not healthy, right? You got your own stuff to deal with. But I think actors, maybe creative artists, feel that stuff.
I think they have to be good.
Right. And so then if you find yourself, it seems like the healing arts are an interesting
sort of detour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also though you have to. I was an artist actually before, but I'm trained as an artist, right? So I have
a visual artist. You mean?
Yeah, like a fine artist. Like I used to paint and do illustration and stuff like that. That's why I went to college. So for me, I feel like identify with that artist part. That's why acting didn't seem like such a stray from what I did, because it was another creative venture.
Sure.
And I was in LA, so I had people that were coming to me and saying like, would you do this or do you want to audition for that? I didn't go out to seek that. So when it happened easily, I thought, well, I should at least pursue it and try. And of course you fall in love with it if you do it at all, like especially stage. I mean, to me, that by far the most invigorating thing I've ever done in my life.
Right.
It's so much fun. So beautiful experience. You get to know other people on a deeper level. You get to know yourself, and just the pride of being able to translate that on a stage for people to get and to feel
live.
Yeah, live. It's like there's nothing like it. Right? You're getting that feedback.
I'm glad you said that because people ask me all the time, what do I like doing more of the stage or the screen? And it really is. I love stage manager says it's 7:30. It's half hour. Actors, half hour, you get into costume, makeup, microphones, and at 8 o'clock, boom, that thing starts and you get an intermission. But, you're telling that story live, and whatever happens.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that. There's
Yeah.
nothing like that.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's talk about reading.
Okay.
I have found myself get deeper and deeper into a passion for channelers. There's channelers. I've mentioned Bashar on this show before. There's a woman named Sarah Landon. There's some channels who are channeling ascended masters. They're channeling, groups of spirit. Abraham Hicks is a very popular one. And I used to be so skeptical. It's just like, oh, come on. Really, like you're talking about, because sometimes, particularly in Bashar's case, they're talking about open contact with alien life forms and stuff that people are just, we are not raised to have any idea of what that is other than watching Hollywood movies.
Right.
Let's start there. Do you follow any of those people as channels, and are you interested in that stuff? Is that a part of your spiritual education or curriculum for yourself?
It's definitely was part of my education, like Abraham Hicks and her books. And I followed Bashar for a while. Like after COVID, I would follow him just because that's when I discovered him. I thought he was wacky, but I actually identified with him more than her at first. Just because it felt, even though he's so the bizarre, the different tonalities and everything, but what he would say would ring true. Like, so to me, everything I believe in is because it resonates. I don't think about is that factual or not factual. It's just, does it resonate? And sometimes he would say stuff, especially alien stuff, and I'd be like, I don't know why that feels real, but it does, and it'd be so conflicted, right?
Exactly, right.
But it was like, I just believe him, and then. And then when I started with Abraham Hicks and stuff, after I read one of her books, I can't remember which one it was, but I actually went and then read Seth. I don't know if you've read the Seth series.
Seth was one of the first. And again, I just thought it was so weird. It's a guy who basically just starts speaking in a stream of consciousness. And when he's talking, it's not him and it's just something coming through him. And you're just like, but it's entire books of wisdom.
Yeah,
and you can't
ignore the wisdom.
You can't ignore the wisdom. That's what that's what you're saying when you listen to it and you go, this isn't about what's going. It just rings true.
Exactly. I feel like you have to discard what can seem like theatrics, right?
Yep.
I just discard that and I just go, does it hit? I don't know if you know this, but I took Kundalini yoga and I'm a Kundalini yoga instructor, right? Certified. And to get the certification, you have to do almost like a year of working with, these traditions and the aspects of the body, the chakras, all these energetic things. And Yogi Bhajan was the leader of this particular technology. There was a huge scandal about him right around COVID. Huge stuff. Just like the Me Too movement exposed him.
I heard that.
Right,
yeah.
And in the middle of that, I'm taking the course. Right, and so a lot of people quit because they just want no part of that. I had to sit with that and just go like, listen, I know what. I believe he did those things because I always had a weird vibe about him. I was always like, I don't know about the guy, but I'm loving what I'm doing here. And I had to make a decision, like, are you going to discard what you have learned here? That has changed you completely. It had changed me. Or are you going to decide, like, well, because the master of it has some darkness, does that mean that the art itself is dark? And to me, it's not. So the same thing with Bashar. I don't see like that's darkness at all. But just the theatrics, as we said. And I don't even think he is performing. I just think that's how he does it.
Yep.
Different channels express certain ways. And his is very awkward. And I think when he talks about it, you can tell, like, that's just what happens. Because when he's talking as Daryl Anka, the Daryl Anka, he's very composed. And he kind of kept to himself about it for a long time before he did it. So to me, he was aware that it looked goofy and weird. And it's just coming through him. So what is he going to do? Is he going to keep it to himself?
Yeah.
So at a point, you have to just go like, it's not about what we think is believable, because most of what we've learned is not true anyway. And there's so much out there that was
hold
not.
on. When you say that, what do you mean most of what we've learned is not true? You're talking about like the conventional
just the conventional
system.
science, conventional medicine, conventional everything. I don't believe most of what we were taught in school is correct, or that there were large gaps left.
Can you give an example?
I think medicine specifically. I think that this is the one thing I took from Christianity that I agree with. They call it pharmacia, which if you break it down is actually like, it's kind of like the spell of medicine. It's like, but it's when it's been corrupted. And I believe that from having been, myself, I was an addict before and had mental illness, and going through that and being prescribed almost everything under the sun, when I think that's extremely unhealthy, a lot of times without any real kind of diagnosis. And then weaning myself off of all that and seeing how I function now, like that was what made me sick. So there's so many things in medicine itself, like Western medicine or conventional medicine, I should say, that I feel is to an end of financial gain rather than for healing. So when it gets corrupted by those things, right, money corrupts a lot of things, or people thinking they can get rich of things, I think that corrupts things. I think power corrupts things. So I think when you have a system of school that educates in a very specific way that is regimented on scheduling and obedience and removing certain things from history and things like that, and that's just very much compelled towards a certain kind of behavior, you're programming people. You're not necessarily teaching them.
Old Aaron would have just been, old Aaron, Duke educated academic Aaron who wanted to go to medical school. It's like you can't see the layers of the thing until you actually see them. And then once you see them, you can't unsee them. Mm-hmm. And that's just the journey of the expansion of souls. And so I've learned how, you can know pretty quick in a conversation with somebody whether they have an open mind and an open heart, or whether they're just holding on to what they need to hold on to. And part of this show is hopefully to inspire people to think a little bit outside of their comfort zone with regards to this stuff. But, so then you go to channelers, you go to the spiritual world. And as you're on your search, whether it be your individual search or mine, Robbie, yours, we're here to figure it out for ourselves. And there are people and things that help us along the way. But spirituality can also become corrupt when you start going, oh, well, these like that psychic that you saw,
Yeah, it's like she did that too,
taking you for a ride, So it can all be corrupted, and you just kind of have to find the thing that your experience of it feels true. And I can look back to a lot of experiences in show business per se, record deals gone south that cost me 5 figures in legal fees to just get out of. I swore that record deal felt true. I swore that was my answer, man. And I was being taken for a ride. And I go, I wanted to be taken on that ride. I was desperately looking for somebody else to give me the golden ring.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I was like, this is it. And I'll pay this guy whatever, you know what I mean? And so I needed to learn those lessons.
Well, it's interesting that you took responsibility for that, right? Because it's hard to do that. Because, you still were taken for the ride, but then there's a part of you that, you're smart, you're intuitive, and there's parts of you that will start to see signs. But we go, no, that couldn't be, because they do see who I am, or they do know I'm real, or they know how important this is to me, or whatever, because you wouldn't do it, right? But at the same time, there's a point when you have to just go, well, yeah, like you said, I wanted to be taken on that ride. I wanted to be taken on that ride by that psychic, and thank God she did it, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. So I don't hate her. I never was. Even after when it happened, I was mad at first when I realized it, when it really hit me. But then I thought it was hysterical, because I was like, why did you believe her that 3 months? It took you 3 months, right? And I knew there's a point when I was like, that just didn't, like, she'd say such flamboyantly beautiful things about what was going to happen. And even I was like, I don't want, like she said, like I think one time she said, oh, you'll marry him, you're going to have, and I'm like, I don't even want to be married. Like, I'm not even looking for that. I just want to get it for a minute.
Wait a second.
I'm out of college. I'm not thinking.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, well, if she sees that, then all the rest of it must be true, because she's saying it's even more than it would be. But my body is also knowing. So there's a point when you have to take responsibility. And that's what I did by grabbing the cards, was like, okay, I'm just going to do it myself.
Do it yourself, your way, find your way into it. Right. I think that's so important. Until I learned how to do that, and it took me.
It takes a while.
It took a while, and it took a lot of lessons learned from even the last couple of years of this to take full ownership of who I really am.
Yeah,
remember
it's a lot.
who we really are, so that other people can't tell you who you are. You're not looking into other people to define you at all. You're like, I know who I am, and I'm looking for this, and let me have this experience. And if it heals me or helps heal me or whatever, I'm open to it. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I'm here for the experience. It feels like the thing I want to do.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, which was very different than like, I need this to go this way because it's part of my plan. And if the plan doesn't get executed, then that means I'm a failure and my kids don't
literally.
become, and all
I
the
do that
pressure.
still sometimes.
You know.
I still do that. I was doing that on the way driving here. I was like, I had to shut my brain down about something I was worried about. And I was finally like, listen, you have no control of this. Like, what is it going to do to sit here and stress out about it? Why can't you just be cool with that? You're getting to this stage. You have this intention and it will either work or not. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, you can't control the process or how it comes about or what coincidences might happen or if this person's going to do it that way. And I think whenever you sort of parcel out those things to what somebody else may or may not do or what life even may do, you're asking for suffering.
You guys, I just want to take a second to say thank you to you, the audience. This show doesn't happen without you. I am, from the bottom of my heart, I am deeply grateful to you because I started The Impossible Dream as a platform to help myself heal and to help other people heal. This podcast is all about that. And without you, that can't happen. We help each other heal. It really does take a village. So if you could just take a second to click and subscribe, like us, rate and review the show. Your comments really do help. Not only do they help us bring you other guests that you want to hear from, but they help us improve the show. They help us grow the show. Your engagement helps us expand what's possible for the reach of Impossible Dreams. So thank you, truly thank you. Thank you for being a part of the Impossible Dreams team. Yeah, I mean, we saw Sadhguru speak together, and he said something about this, and the amalgamation of everything I've ever read and what he said as recently a couple of weeks ago is like, the only thing that we have is this exact moment. You get to really choose in this moment, what do you want to experience in this moment? Do you want to worry about that thing that you can't control? Is that how you want to experience this moment?
Yeah.
And if not, how do you choose to experience something else, knowing that you'll never, ever, ever be able to get anyone else to do what you want them to do at 100% of the way you want them to do it.
Well, they're always doing it the way they're going to do it.
So how do you want to experience this moment and being present, even if the present moment is full of adversity and challenge?
That's the part.
Yeah.
I think that's the part I do struggle with. I had this last couple of weeks. I don't know if you guys have been experiencing it, but I've been feeling very emotionally dead, basically. And that happens to me every few years. Like I said, I had mental health stuff. So I came from a lot of just clinical depression. So my experience of clinical depression wasn't necessarily being sad. It was not feeling connected. So when that happens, you really don't have motivation, which is the depression, right? You just don't want to get up. You don't want to do anything. You don't want to talk to anyone. Nothing you do feels good. So I was going through that, and I know what's happening now, so it doesn't freak me out like it used to. And I also know it usually just means go into movement, do something, or just get out of the space or whatever. But it takes a lot to not reach for a pill, to not reach for a drink, not do that, right? And I've been sober, or I don't call it sober. I don't do drugs or alcohol for a really long time. I don't call it sober because I still use plant medicine. What I've had to learn recently, is even last night, was just it's okay to be uncomfortable. And that was the hugest block for me for 99% of my life, was just, if it's uncomfortable, I have to do something to soothe it, to change it, to shift. I have to do something because I'm not living in this discomfort, right? And so that's why I became an addict. Because, okay, well, I'll reach for a pill. If I have to go to a party, I'll have a drink. I just couldn't do it. And it only recently, in the last 3 years, was I've been sober, in terms of not using for 10, 11 years now. But in terms of realizing it's just the discomfort. I thought it was a lot of other things. I'm just had a lot of difficulty happen in my life and it was just ultimately you're avoiding being uncomfortable. And you think it's wrong that you're uncomfortable, which is crazy because a lot of life is uncomfortable. But for me, it wasn't, because then I would do something about it.
Robbie,
right?
is that true for you too? Was that true for you?
Very.
Is that wild?
So I'm in recovery as well.
Yeah.
Very similar. I love hearing that. It's so good. Yeah, the discomfort is what we avoid. But what's interesting is once you start to soothe that discomfort or remove that discomfort with a pill or something, you create more discomfort.
Literally.
And then you need
it just cycles more.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Then becomes the addiction.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. And I realized that was what was happening, is I've had enough of a gap in the last 3 years of not using that I hadn't really thought about managing it. It just was, I was fortunate. I'd prayed a lot about it. I had done a lot of work with Rob. I'd done this stuff, and I was just so consumed with love for all these things. But my behavior by nature is addictive. So if I'm not doing that, I'm doing Kundalini 3 times a day, or I'm doing readings all the time. Like, I just would transfer it, right? Healthy addictions, but there's still that. So what I had to sit with this last couple of weeks was, you have to be okay with being uncomfortable. In fact, you should dive into being uncomfortable. Like, just get into it.
Intentional
and that's
suffering.
Literally, like, let's just go, because that's where I'm blocked. That's why I'm not experiencing another gain in terms of my emotion. I've stagnated because I've done all the healthy stuff. I quit all the bad stuff. And there's still this gap that thinks that discomfort shouldn't exist. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, that's it. That's the last key. So this last week, I've been like, okay, get up. Yeah, you have to go to the gym. I don't care. You're uncomfortable. You don't get to do X, Y, Z. Yeah, that's a hard set. And these are things I've all done at one time or another, but I always had something to soften it. Always. This is really recent. This is and it's crazy. I'm 57. It took me till now to go, oh, you can be uncomfortable and it's okay. That's insane.
That's a big lesson.
Right?
Yes.
Robbie, do you agree?
It's just brilliant. Yes. I mean, it's such a part of the growth process to realize that discomfort is a part of life.
Yeah.
And we've talked a lot about this. Now, there's a difference between suffering and discomfort.
Yes.
There's just life happens, and we're not always going to just feel content and good and happy. And
why not?
But it's so funny that we're doing this because I never post anything other than marketing stuff. But
right.
Today I was like, you know what? I'm going to fucking write something. I'm going to put something out there. And I started writing about managed expectations.
Huh.
And how this applies to what we're talking about is when you think about managed expectations, I typically don't do the typical process of managed expectations, which often is hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Okay.
If you do that, if you prepare for the worst, you are in a present state of negativity. You're expecting something to not happen the way you want it to happen. And you're in that moment leading up to whenever that event happens, you're in a negative space. I choose to be optimistic. I choose to expect it to happen the way that I want it to happen and hope it happens the way I want it to happen. And the reason people do it the other way is because if it doesn't happen, which it majority of the time doesn't, you're hit with some negative discomfort, some feelings, some emotional responses that everybody wants to protect themselves from.
Right.
So managing expectations is all you're trying to do is avoid that feeling of not getting what you want, which is going to happen inevitably throughout life. So if you go into it with positivity, optimism, manifest, all that kind of thinking, then when it happens, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen,
great.
Fucking, it's life, man.
Right. It's not about, it doesn't define you anymore.
No, and it's the learning thing that takes you to the next one.
Right.
So,
that's great.
There you go.
I love that.
Thanks for letting me.
I thought at first you were going to say so I prepare for the worst. I'm like, no, don't do that message.
Yeah,
well, I started it kind of going.
I did. If you go to the Cherry Hill High School West 1994 yearbook and look at Aaron Lazar's senior quote.
What did you say?
Hope for the best, expect the worst, and take what comes.
You said that.
I didn't say it. My mom, the way I remember it is I needed a quote. I didn't know what the heck quote I wanted to use. I was like, Mom, I need a quote for the yearbook. She's like, this is the quote. And I was like,
Oy.
That is profound. Great. And
It is profound.
I was like, great, this is me. No.
No, do not expect that.
No, if you
profoundly wrong.
If you learn anything about how to create your life, there's constant adversity of this. I don't know, and if I spend time going expect the worst, I'm a dead man, dude.
Right.
And this is unfortunate. There's a lot of people watching the show that have ALS or another disease or know somebody who does, and it's so what do you do then? We're just trained to believe that you have to see it to believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially a guy like me who was used to achieving everything, where I
Everything's
saw it
about
all.
seeing it come
I was like,
to
I did
fruition.
it.
Yeah.
I'm going to set out to do this thing, and I did it. And look, I did it. It's right there. I did it. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Proof all the time. In the gym, look at my body. There's proof. Look, I'm doing it. And whatever I want to do, I can do. I want to learn this. I'm going to do that. So there's constant proof. And with healing, you
have to
have
believe it.
so much more faith.
Yeah.
There are just some things in life. Maybe it's relationships, attracting the right partner.
Yeah.
Like Sarah is my kids, Sarah, although everybody, I think because of, I'll take credit for it being that I set out to create the narrative of what this ALS experience was going to be. I said from the beginning, I don't want pity. I don't want sympathy. I want you to imagine me 100%. And I want you to fill that vision with your magic and your love. And I'm asking the world to do that. And that set the tone for people who were like, oh, you have this? Well, that means this is going to happen. But I have amazing days and I love my life. And I stay on the mission, which is that somehow, in some way, when God says it's time, this will reverse. And maybe it already is. I have no idea. Which brings me to you, back to you, which is, Sarah was like, you got to talk to Noella. And I'm like, I would love to. I had spoken to you for 30 seconds on the phone. I had a healing with Rob, and I was at Sarah's house. I hadn't even met Sarah yet. And Rob goes, I want you to talk to my friend Noella. She's a psychic, and puts me on the phone. You said, I need your eye color and your birth date. And that's all. And Rob had said, I got a guy, and he's in a wheelchair. He's a buddy of mine. What do you see?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you said?
No, I don't.
I know, because you say you don't remember.
I don't. I just remember that it was really, I was kind of surprised by what he was saying because it didn't match what I was seeing. That's what I remember, because I remember being like, no, he's fine. He's going to be fine. Tell him he's fine. I said it really light too. It wasn't like I went, oh, he's in a wheelchair. Oh no, you better do this. I just remember being light because I let it go after that. I didn't dwell on it. And usually if I feel like something's heavy, like if somebody, I have a lot of his clients, will call me and they have cancer or whatever. And I'll immediately know, sometimes oh, this is, it might not be long kind of thing. I'll have a feeling. And I don't say that ever, but I will say oh, well, we got work to do, or oh, what have you done? So with you, I don't think I really even asked you questions. If I remember, I just kind of said what I thought, and then he put you back on with him.
Yeah, I started crying before you even got on the phone, which was totally weird. I was like, he's like, I'm going to call my psychic friend. Is that okay with you? And I was like, yes. And the phone's ringing. We're waiting for you to pick up. And I just start crying. Oh, and then you pick up the phone. I was like, why was I crying? And then you were like, yeah, the miracle could happen any minute. That's all I really remember from that. Like the miracle could happen for you right now, any minute. You've done the work or something. And then I walked outside and met Sarah a couple minutes later.
That was the part.
Which was not at all what I was like. The miracle is I will be walking again and this will be gone. But I met Sarah a couple minutes later.
I guess
so
that was one of the miracles.
And then I guess it was another month or two went by, and I was on the East Coast doing some benefit concerts and was just having a tough time. I was making adjustments from being able to roll myself over in bed to, inventing pajama pants with handles on them so that I could move my legs. And I'm doing this in my parents' house and having trouble going to the bathroom by myself. And it was just becoming scary hard as opposed to just this is physically challenging. It was becoming
It's just now.
Really oh, this is real and this is not fun and this sucks. And so I was like, let me call Noella, and if there's bad news, let me just hear the bad news. And if there's good news, God willing, please let there be good news. I had been diligently working for at that point, it was 2.5 years on spiritual change and growth and changing myself to change my life. And you started to say things that by the end of our conversation, I said to you, and I think I said to you, Sarah, I was like, Noella kind of feels like she's in my head and she's reflecting back to me the best of the voices in my head, which was really powerful for me because it was that's reinforcement of the self-talk that I want to have and not the negative stuff. What were you doing with the cards? And do you want to show us a little bit?
Yeah,
do you want to maybe
could I do it?
Do a reading or for me or Robbie or?
That's, Robbie, would you like a reading? Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna start with you because it will kind of bounce off of what we just did.
Okay.
Let's just do a short one and then I'll do a little one for you. Great. And that way you can get a good. Sarah, do we have to include you too? And I'll leave you out. let's just see what unfolds. But basically what I'll do is I shuffle them first myself, right? And it depends on the person too. Like if I'm with different readings, I do different things. So like I don't always tell people to like breathe and relax and stuff. I do it when I can tell people are really in their heads. So it just kind of gets you back grounded and gives me time to shuffle as well. So in this case, I just do this so that it actually puts me in a bit of a trance when I'm just shuffling. Then what I'm going to do, now that we've shuffled, I don't know if I can do this well, I need to spread them and then you pick.
Sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to have you pick 3 because since we're here, right?
Sure. And do I have any, am I supposed to have any intention on this pick? Just literally pick 3 cards.
And you can do it at your leisure. You can take your time or you can just pick 3. You can pick them all in the same spot, but just pull them out and then I will gather them.
And I used to think, oh man, there's so much pressure. What cards am I going to pick?
Exactly.
And now I'm just
Now you're like, whatever.
Just pick whatever card.
Because it doesn't matter. Like what's going to
matter.
happen is going to happen.
All right, so let's just pick 3 cards.
Be smart
And
about
I'm not thinking about, I literally have no intention. I'm not thinking about anything at all except having fun picking cards. And as you can see, my hands aren't working the best. So it's not like I even have the best dexterity at picking.
Hey, you did great.
Any card.
Great.
It's just picking cards, having fun. All right.
Okay. So I'm going to have to move out of this for a second. Sorry, I'm going to move out of the frame.
You can move. Yeah, you can move.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So, hold on. I was going to pick something myself. So usually if we were doing a full reading, have you pick 10.
Okay.
And then I have a spread that I created myself that each position tells me about a different aspect of you. And then each card on that position will tell me about a different outcome for that situation. And then the reading as a whole tells me a story about you. But we don't have time to do it right now. But essentially when you do a 3-card reading, at least when I do it, it's basically telling me what's going on or the crux of the matter, where you're at now, and what's likely to come. And then the card I pick is what's in the way. Like what does the person I'm talking to, in your case, what is in the way of whatever you're asking about.
All right, so wait, say that again. The crux of the matter.
The crux of the matter, or like what is the basis of the reading? Why are we here?
Okay.
Right? And then what is it going on now? Like what are you experiencing? Where are you at in your journey? And then what is the outcome, which is, by the way, is really nice. And then this is what you're afraid of or what's in the way. And
cool.
In this case, it actually, what I said afraid of, that means that's something you're afraid of because it's just telling me what's in the way.
Got it.
So you have the 9 of Staffs, which to me just tells me that you're, like basically what it means is that you're still wondering, like where am I going to experience the shift? Like when am I going to start to see that all this work I've done is leading to the eventual outcome, right? Like you've come to a point where you've done as much as you know how to do and you'll continue to do. But you would have thought by now you'd be at a certain place. And so now it's gotten to that sort of tender spot of, do I resign myself to this is what it is? Or do I just keep believing? Like it's just that really questioning spirit, which keeps coming back and forth. But it shows it as a strong spirit. It's like it's inevitable that you'd feel that. It's not a problem. Here's where you are. You have the moon, which number one, we're in a really weird conjunct with the moon right now in terms of where Saturn is and all that. I don't want to get into that because I'm not really an astrologer. But energetically speaking, this is when a lot of old fears would come up or doubts, things that force you to like really remember, who am I? What do I believe about myself? What do I believe about my circumstance? And it's been hard. To me, the last month or so has been really hard. For you, emotionally speaking, very hard. Physically, that goes without saying. It's been hard, but you've definitely had real hills and valleys this last month, and there may have been moments when you're like, you know what, I'm actually done. Like I can't, So it's a very emotionally charged energy of what you've been going through. It still isn't a giving up energy. It's just more like when you just don't know what's happening kind of energy. But then you have the Knight of Pentacles as an outcome, which is because of the positioning and what I was asking myself when I pulled the cards. This is not very long from now, like so before the end of the year, but you should start to see signs like between now and September of some specific changes that are to you telltale signs that something has changed for the better. and they're not significant. If you're not in your body, they wouldn't seem like a big deal. But because you know what those signs would be, it's a really big deal because there are things that people said could not happen. So to me, that would be like, for example, your toes. Like if you said, like, I have trouble moving them up, all of a sudden you could do that. And you could do that for 5 days in a row, and then it's like not stopping. So it'd be like a significant sign of something that shouldn't be happening, quote, that is not only happened, but is lasting. So it tells you something has changed, because usually I'll have that for 2 or 3 days and then it disappears again. But it's like something that holds, but it's more than one thing. So they're not significant if you look at the scope, but in terms of what they suggest, they're significant. And it's saying like in the next 9 weeks or so, you're going to start to experience a lifting of the heaviness that you're feeling in here. So some of the pain of just being in your circumstance will just feel lighter. And not because you've accepted something, but because you'll feel something is changing. I don't know what it is. Like energetically, just that kind of like when you go for a role and you just know you got it. You just know, right? And nobody's called you. You shouldn't. Maybe you've been against somebody that was more slated for it, but you just know, right? Or you just know you hit that note when you were singing. It's just knowing. So you'll start to feel that, which is huge. It's huge because despite your will, your reality keeps conflicting with what you want. And life keeps happening, which can be very discouraging. So will is something that's very hard to sustain on its own, right? It's just will. It's like how much can you push yourself to believe something? But this is when it's a knowing. It's not believing, it's knowing. So it's a shift that to me is honestly, to me is the shift that you needed the whole time. It's you have gone in and out of it, but it's when you just know, because I feel like maybe the toe thing is what maybe brings it, because it feels like it's the toes. It might be something else, but to me it feels like, because I can see you looking down when it happens. I can see it. So I'm pretty sure it's that, right? But it could just be something. It could be something else that I don't understand is happening with your body. But I know you're looking down when you go, wait, this is happening, and then you can feel, and then you start to know like, oh, this was what I needed, and then because you start to feel that way, it shows more of a change. Now, the thing that's in the way there's nothing in the way really. Like if you want to look at it in terms of blocks, but what's been preventing that from happening is the part of you that just is there, just you can't help it, that is still in belief, that has not quite made it to the knowing. So that's not a thing you can control. To me, it's like when you fall in love with somebody, like at a certain point you're not in love yet, and then one day you look at them and you're in love, and there's nothing to debate anymore. It's a process. So to me, all the work you've been doing and all the things you had to combat have been keeping you sort of ping-ponging back and forth with the strength of your belief. Your passion for it, your will for it is very strong. Those things have maintained. But the internal aspect of you that just doesn't need to be convinced anymore, that just knows, that has been the only thing that's been in and out. But again, when I pick this card, it's just to help me to know, like, well, why hasn't it happened yet, you know? And so it's not telling you, like, you need to do this, because you don't need to do anything. It just will happen. It's part of, like, the growth. It just happens one day. So to me, that to me is even more important than the toe thing, but I'm not sure which one comes first. You might get the knowing before the toe happens, and that's why the toe happens. But it might be that the toe thing happens, and then you're like, okay, now I can believe it. I'm not sure which. But right now, I know that you know what I'm saying is true. It just makes no sense.
Well, first of all, thank you. So cool. Are you crying over there? Very cool. Can I ask some questions?
Yes, please.
I think what's been challenging with the physical nature of the disease, if that's where we want to talk about it, is that I'll have weeks physically, not weeks, but I'll have a day or two where I feel stronger, but it doesn't last. And then it's actually, it's the doctors saying, no, this is how it goes. You know, you might go up and down, but you go down. You know, you might go up and down, up and down, up and down, but you're going down. And you had actually said in that reading back in October, don't chart this thing like from a scientific perspective. You'll you'll get in your own way because it's not going to, that's
won't
not going to
match
help.
that.
It's not going to match that. Energetically,
Mm-hmm.
I am living more of a life than I was before. You know,
I would
we've
agree
been
with that.
we've
I
been
would
here
agree with
filming
that.
every day. I went out, you know, we went to see Sadhguru speak. I go to my kids' basketball practices. I have friends come over. I used to be kind of afraid to do anything, and very stressed out about how it would affect my physical life. And I feel more liberated there, even though physically I'm not liberated. I'm more challenged physically in some ways.
So can I just interject and say, so if that's the case, and you feel like actually I've been doing better, then the reading pushes up. It means I'm reading a little bit in delay, meaning then you should be experiencing signs of change sooner than what I said. It doesn't take away. It means that I'm reading a little bit late. So you were experiencing, let's say prior to this month, that might have been a harder time, let's say. And so that means I'm pushing up the dates of when the change should happen then. So less than the end of the year. It should be sooner. So that's what I would see at it, because it's definitely showing me there was a period fairly recent that was really, really hard. And it's also showing me then the next indicated action is that something physically changes, but definitely something, and both of them are definite, something physical changes that's lasting, and something emotionally, I would say psychically almost.
That's what intrigues me the most, because there have been times throughout this process, one of which was actually after meeting and working with Rob the first time.
Yes.
So this is a year and a couple months ago, where for a good 2 weeks after,
You felt really great.
I was like, it's done. It's over. I know it's gone.
Yeah.
I don't just believe it. I know it.
Okay.
And I called my parents. I was on my balcony in my old place. And I said, guys,
Pretty sure I got it.
I think it's done. And here we are, you know. So I really do believe as within, so without. And we've talked about that with different guests on the show, that you got to change yourself from the inside in order to change the outside. Change yourself and you'll change your life. And I do feel that there's been the ability to really align with and settle into the changes that I worked so hard to make all the way up through this mushroom journey at the beginning of March. What's incoherent is that I'll look at myself in the mirror and see that I've lost weight, or that I've lost muscle, or that my arms are doing, you know, whatever the challenge might be. And that's incoherent with what's going on. So I have the purpose, I have the mission, I have the belief, I have experiences of knowing, I have ups and downs dealing with the physical, and overall, I also just don't want to sit there and wait for anything. I want to live my life with as much joy and bliss as I can.
Which was probably the point that you needed to do. I think that's why there's a shift. I feel like that was a turning point. Like when you moved, when you and Sarah started to get closer, when you got a new caregiver, I feel like you created that now the container that was necessary for you to have this knowing happen. So the fact that you're now being more present and you're doing things and you're letting yourself just live instead of feeling like I have to know, I have to do this, I have to do that, I can't do this. You're just kind of like, hey, listen, I'm here. I don't want to keep missing life. I feel like that's the truth now, that you're living in alignment now. With the other stuff was driven. This is aligned. And I think that's the difference when you're manifesting than when you're creating on a more rational level. Like when you're creating from a worldly place, you're pushing for things to happen. You're making them happen. It's like aggressive action. Let's do, inspired action or whatever. But when you're manifesting on when you really know you're the creator, you're aligning, you're allowing, you're receiving. So it's much less you doing. It's just you being. So the more you are doing what you're doing, which is enjoying life, enjoying Sarah, being with your friends, creating these kind of things, and yeah, you can keep the goal in mind, but as long as you're doing, like you're hanging out with your kids, you're playing with them, and you're laughing, you're in alignment. When you go into like, no, well, what I got to do, you're not, because you're now away from it, you don't believe it.
Yeah,
and it's very hard to maintain. But
I'll say, like, the machines in my house, the infrared machine, the water machine, the the music that I needed at night to fall asleep, all of that has gone away.
Interesting.
And I just
Huh.
I don't need those things.
I love that,
I don't
actually.
use those things. I don't need anything to go to sleep. I want complete
That's
quiet.
why this is such a different reading. This is so. I'm actually a bit surprised by what I'm seeing because it's very boom, boom, boom. Like it's not. Well, you got to do this, and it's just real clear, and that means you're real clear, and because I'm just reading you, and the card I picked is the only one that's like, oh, this is maybe, and it was with that energy. Like I was like, oh, what's not happening? What's preventing it? So it's supposed to tell me something that's not necessarily positive, right? But it's not telling me anything negative. It's just saying, well, when you have the Eight of Cups, it means you've removed yourself from something, or you're no longer in that space. So that's why I said there's not really a block anymore. It's just process now. It's just the process is you had to be in this space of being present to become aligned to then start to see the physical aspect and the mental aspect healing completely to where they're aligned.
Noella, you are so special, and I'm so happy that you're here, and I thank you for this reading. I wish we had more time to do a reading with Robbie and Sarah, and I'm sure
me too.
People would love to see that. We can get into that outside maybe a little bit and chat. But thank you.
Thank you.
Would love to have you back at some point to take it even deeper.
I would love to.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have sort of come into your life and have you come into mine. Thanks for joining us on Impossible Dreams.
Thank you for including me. This was amazing.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you.